All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Everybody, appreciate you
Hello
guys
there.
stopping by. Return of the Honor Bound podcast. It's been quite a while. I appreciate you guys being here. I am joined today by Raawhit, Verbalosity, and Bodrat. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your very busy schedule in the new year to be with us. How was everybody's new year?
Quite pleasant, all things considered, in the world right now. World right now. I have a wazer rifle. All, all is good. No one I know has died of COVID, and I have my health and finances are good. There's not much I can ask for right now in the current year that is 2021.
Excellent.
My New Year's was amazing. I got drunk and I didn't throw up.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Wow, you guys both said excellent.
That's because it is, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
You should maybe go on a date.
Oh,
You commentate together long enough, you start getting little connections about what a person may or may not say. It happens over time.
that's very
I'm
good.
here.
Yo,
Hey!
no cursing.
What's up,
Back from
Bodrat?
the-
Oh wait, no cursing?
We're live, by the way. Podcast
Yeah.
has started. Everybody's
No
here.
worries.
How was your New Year's, Bodrat?
It was excellent. Just did nothing.
All right.
What about you? You spend time with your family?
Yeah, spent time with the family. Ate some good food. Went to bed at
What'd
2
you eat?
a.m. like an old man.
Pog.
All right, so
Very poggers.
if you guys want to keep up with the topics, you can do exclamation point topics in chat, and that will give you everything we're going to cover. Brief overview. We're just going to look at Gryphon and the TG changes, the Dominion series overall, and then the health of the competitive community after the Dominion series has been going on for a little bit. So I wanted to start with the testing ground changes and Gryphon. If you guys want to be reminded of the testing ground changes, you can also do exclamation point TG in chat, which should give you the link to the latest changes that were implemented. So, Verb, I kind of want to start with you.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Gryphon and your thoughts on the different character changes that they tested in testing grounds?
Alright, so starting from the top for me at least, Gryphon, I was shocked at how little he made an impact to me immediately. Outside of, oh no, he has a thermal detonator that also heals you for a tier 4 feat, and everything else heals you, which, as the resident benevolence or benefaction user in the community, I am a fan of the support feats, but outside of that, it's like, he's fine enough. He got Bardiche, he's got a solid mix-up, he's got dash attacks, that's the main thing he's getting blasted for on Reddit right now, but outside of that, it was remarkable in how unremarkable he was, especially after Warmonger's entire microcosm that was, oh hey, I managed to get my tier 1 feat banned, it's that good, and then all the other stuff on top of that with like, oh god, it's a Apollyon. Gryphon was just fine. Wasn't completely insane. It was just fine, which was strange for me. Usually each release of a hero, up until like maybe the last set we had, it was like there was something that really changed things up, some sort of new mechanic or some different way of thinking about things. Now it's just like, eh, which is probably not a reaction you want to a new hero, but at least it wasn't bad. At least it wasn't a hero that actively made things worse. Although, admittedly, this is coming from someone who doesn't scrim a lot, who mainly just watches a lot of footage and also just plays a lot casually. Like, I've got to ask the people who actually scrim, that be everyone else in this call. Like, what do you guys think about Gryphon?
I despise the freaking character.
Oh.
I don't like his feats. His feats are very, very, very fun to play around, especially with the launch of TG. Imagine like trying to rework two different bleed characters and you release a character that just cleanses literally everything by pressing 2 or 3 or 4 on your keyboard. And his damage, I feel like, needs a bit tuning. The kick is probably the most annoying thing that he has right now, besides his dash attack. It's 28 damage in a team fight that you just eat for free almost every time. Not a fan.
Eat for free?
If you're putting some sort of like block stun in a team fight,
Ah.
you can just land a kick.
Yeah, he means if like target swap, if like so you're in a stun or any type of recovery.
Yeah, like if he lands a dash attack or anything that like lets him chain into his kick, you'll most likely get hit by it. If not, you're eating 30 damage because of his finisher heavy. Like I like that his mix up is good. I think 28 damage is just a tad bit too much.
What would you prefer the number to be?
24 or lower.
And
I
not
don't
quite a
even
full
think-
bar of HP.
Yeah, I don't even think sweep does a full bar because it is like Valk.
Doesn't sweep do 26? I swear it does 26.
Sweep has to be slower than the kick. The kick's 500 ms in chain.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast sweep is on top of my head, but
Oh, sweep is slow.
yeah.
Yeah, sweep is like 900 ms, I want to say.
Let's go with
Now-
that. It's not
about-
500 in chain.
Yeah.
500
Yeah,
in chain is like LB shove. And LB doesn't get a heavy off of a shove, so I think it's a little wild. What do you think of the character Sorsu?
I don't know. I'm in agreement. I mean, running into stacks of them in matchmaking is very annoying. I don't know. I think it's a different kind of annoying and frustrating than Warmonger when Warmonger first came out. But I would say that Gryphon is more frustrating to deal with than a Warmonger on release with 4 stacks. In terms of competitive, I haven't really played against or with a Gryphon in scrims too much, but I think that's most of the time scrims just have him banned because he's banned in Dominion series, so people are practicing for that. But the times I have seen him, he just does incredibly well in team fights. He uses these hyper armor, heavies to trade, and is very difficult to gank because he has ridiculous iframes, and his damage is just really good, and he can stall very well. You slap your stick on the ground and you get like a bar of HP back or something like that, and basically gives you another chance at a shaman gank if they have a shaman. So as of now, I think the hero is just a bit too strong all around. I think getting rid of the tier 3, the crossbow, in competitive would be a good idea, and I think the character would do fine with that because there are other tier 3s that are are decent.
Yeah, all of his other feats are good. Like, if we were to ban all of his uniques, he has other feats, but I feel like it'd be pointless if we just banned his uniques.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Because
think
his uniques are good. Tier 2, Tier 1, Tier 4. It's just the Tier 3, 50 damage health swing, 400
Yeah.
MS projectile. Haha, XD.
yeah,
It's no
that's-
Fugia, but it's still very annoying to deal with.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was going to ask, is what is everybody's thoughts? Like, if we're going to be banning these feats, which of these feats would be banned, and what would take its place?
Fury. He has Fury as Tier 3.
I think we just have to wait first and scrim with the feats. Like, it's too early to just ban them first.
That
Yeah,
tier.
I would like to scrim with them first and see what's like so OP about it, and then go from there. Because right now we're just watching fucking 3 Gryphons. Oh, my apologies. 3 Gryphons just in matchmaking.
Yeah,
throwing feats at each other. So it's
That's
like,
another thing. Gryphon has like boosted so many players in MM. I've never seen so many names
Yeah, there's a
in
lot
my
more
life.
players. Yeah.
There's a lot more players all of a sudden because of Gryphon. I don't mind it. The MMQs are pretty good, but the fact that I'm still playing against like 3 or 4 Gryphons.
Yeah. His feats
It's
are
like-
really strong. It's just in order to ban them, like you have to scrim with them first with single pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you can't just ban them straight off without even knowing like what's going on.
It's an issue too because Dominion series is like the rest of this month, so nobody's gonna be scrimming with that character.
Yeah. We just have
Till
to wait.
February. Yeah.
Like,
Should be fun.
His feats do make like Fire Flask not too good. Shaman pretty bad, just because of the cleanse with all his feats pretty much.
Yeah, but to be fair, Shaman's not really being run anymore. in
Yeah,
these-
yeah,
He's
she's
not,
on
but
it, but
this-
this makes
here's-
her even more
Yeah.
unusable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Side note though, tournaments that we could potentially see people scrim for, like there's Slaceon monthlies, obviously, but there isn't too many being run right now, which kind of adds to the problem of like if you'd want to play like enter a tournament that doesn't have Gryphon ban just to see what happens. There's not too many opportunities right now, so that kind of adds to this kind of annoying mystery of like how much meat is there to Gryphon with all these feats, and that we don't have enough real time outside of just scrimsies to really get into there and sort of find out for ourselves.
I'm pretty sure Slaceon has been banning Gryphon too, yeah?
Yeah, we the last tournament that we held, Gryphon was banned, but I don't believe that was intentional. I think it was just an oversight by the TO. I think we're going to start allowing him in our tournaments. I would have to double check with Death Scythe on that, but I do believe we'll be able to start using him, which is exciting because I do want to see what these teams can do with Gryphon, and to see what happens, because I've been in VCs with like Score and other people when they're trying to gank and trying to figure out this character, and watching people play and it's to me it looks Gryphon looks very different, even if like I'm seeing the competitive players play Gryphon a certain way in but then when they're practicing or doing something else, how you play the character just looks different. Like for example, a lot of people think that Gryphon has really good ganks, but from the testing that has been done, that at least that I've seen and heard of, Gryphon doesn't actually have all that great of ganks.
With Scent, at least, there's not a lot he can do. But with like your typical bash character, it's just same old.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Right, but that's not something that's inherent to Gryphon. That's just what happens with a bash character.
Yeah.
And I'm something I'm curious about too is Gryphon's. Like, we haven't really scrimmed with him, so this is just speculation. But I know what's been discussed is Gryphon's place in competitive team compositions when he is allowed to be played. I've heard some different people say that he might replace Centurion in different comps, or maybe a mid clear or something like that. So I'm curious what you guys think about where Gryphon could land with the normal team composition that we've seen from these different tournaments.
Oh, the whole entire meta now is just Warmonger, BP, Warlord, and Scent. You're dropping a Bush Boy for Gryphon. One of the Bush Boys are going for Gryphon. I think you keep Warmonger and Centurion just because Warmonger with her feats and Centurion just blows people up with this gang. And Scent's just good at everything. Yeah. If you don't have like a silencer or Bodrat type player, I think you drop Black.
Yeah.
And if you do, you drop War. That's what I think it'll be like after.
For me, like I guess it's really hard to see where he fits. I don't even know, because since Warlord's so good too, just with his stalling and crashing charge, that's what makes him so good. Just instantly delete someone from 140 HP and they're gone.
Yeah.
So
like he might not even be played for all we know. Like
it's just really hard to tell who he will replace. People would just have to keep scrimming and keep rotating off characters to see where he fits the best.
Well, so then I have a question, because you had Bodrat and Raawhit, you had said that he doesn't really have too much of anything good with Centurion, but he does well with bash characters. So if you are running a Gryphon, wouldn't it make more sense to keep with these 3 different bash characters to really elevate Gryphon? Or is just Centurion just too good to where if you are going to run Gryphon, even though he can't gank well with a Gryphon, it's still best to keep Scent in there?
You keep Scent.
Yeah. Like Score thinks Scent, his prediction is Scent will be gone for Gryphon, but
I think Scent's the best character in the game right now.
Because he thinks Scent gets pooped on by every
Gryphon,
like every other meta character, Warmonger, BP. But that just depends on your how good you're at dodging bashes. pretty much. Like Scent does really good if you have good reactions against bash characters.
Scent's also really good at like being on the offense against bash
Exactly.
characters, too.
Like once he gets into his offense, it's really hard to like get him out of it. Like sure, like BP, Warlord have a lot of option selects, but if you can react pretty well, you won't get pooped on by bash characters. So I don't know. You just gotta wait and see. Rotate him around. Maybe BP, maybe Warlord, maybe Warmonger. You never know who he's gonna replace. You just gotta see where he fits best.
Something I've got to wonder though, personally, is this problem of where does Gryphon go not necessarily because Gryphon is worse, but because the value of the current meta compositions is so high. Like, listening to you two talk about that, I almost get flashbacks to a couple seasons ago when the hard stuck meta was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was stuff like Lawbringer, Shaman, BP, and then one flex. You sort of swapped out depending on the yeah, well, said you swapped it out depending on the team. So I wonder, because thinking about every single person in the traditional lineup, even feats-wise, for example, Black Prior, you've got the ability to save someone from long range, no fun allowed on Oathbreaker, Umbral Shield, then Warlord, Fury Flask. That's going to be that's extremely big price to pay if you want to remove the Warlord. Then Centurion, he's got some nice feats here and there. Pugio, obviously, is just, haha, screw you. You've got Phalanx. It's there, it's nice, and then everything on top of that. Is it a case of just the current, I guess, meta loadout of particular heroes is just too valuable to drop anyone without a damn good reason?
Yeah, I agree. Like, you need a really good reason. All the meta characters right now are good for a reason. Like, there's extremely strong features. Like, NA was...
Where's the flex slot? There is no flex slot right now.
Right now there was... The only flex before was BP, like, with Kensei or something. Like, if you had, like, two Bush Boys, you would replace them with something else. But now everyone's just sticking to the same meta. Like, NA was a little bit late to adapt this meta, but we're there now.
Not excited for this meta to just... It's going to be like LB. We're going to be here for like a year before anything
I don't
changes.
like the Warmonger meta just because you have to just watch your teammates get ganked.
Yeah.
But someone that would put a, like, maybe this is my prediction, is Gryphon, just because Score brought up a good point. Like, say your teammate's getting Warmonger ganked. Well, Gryphon has heals. He can bowl them. He can tier 4 grenade them. That way they're just healing in while they're getting ganked. So we'll see. He has a lot of heals from long range. So even if he's not in the bubble of the Warmonger, he can still heal his teammate. So it's hard to gank. But we'll see.
And even if we start messing around with feats as well with Gryphon, it's like thinking about the full list. Like, Fury Cleanser is technically a thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. You can increase the damage on the initial explosion with Fury, so that increases that too. I don't believe it increased the healing.
Does not.
If you...
No, for damage it will for the...
I think you would still take Champion's Aura over the tier 4 unique.
That's interesting to hear, because Champion's Aura, the tier 4, that's a feat that was, at least until this point, basically exclusive to Highlander, and a feat I've tried to run for ages casually, but it's so hard to make work. So I'd love to see Champion's Aura use the competitive setting as a fan of really obscure feats.
It's a really good feat. It was just locked behind Highlander.
Yeah.
Same with like Staggering Blow.
Yeah, exactly. Staggering Blow is so good.
Yeah, Staggering Blow is a really good tier 4, but you have to play Shigoki. But nothing wrong with playing Shigoki. Shigoki is so fun to play. So it's not like, I think it's a better trade-off playing Shigoki over Highlander for crazy like tier 4.
Yeah, gank nonsense. A couple games that me and Cerezu commentated on Slacy on when Swan busted out a Shigoki with tier 4. As soon as the Shigoki got to tier 4, those weird sort of last stand breaking rallies got real interesting as soon as the fat man walked in, because 1 GB, you're out of there. You ain't staying. Although, unless a wall cucked them, there was a good couple times, Cerezu, I do distinctly remember, where a wall literally saved an entire team's map. Sometimes entire sets, just because a Shigoki hit a wall, because, like, outside of JJ, Shugo, for some reason, has a thing getting magnetized to walls and getting knocked off them.
That's another thing that pisses me off. The new character is Soothing Mist is tier 2.
Yeah.
That makes me so sad as a JJ, or old JJ player at least.
Buff benevolence, damn it, For Honor. I'm gonna stay on that train forever. Or benefaction, not benevolence. I'm sorry, I'm gonna champion this forever. In talking about the older feats, we've got all of this interesting health stuff. Why not start going into other places? Like, yeah, stamina is less important now because of the changes with the testing grounds, the core combat update. But if we're gonna start going into the support style of feats, we're seeing with Gryphon right now, I'd want to see them mess with maybe even feats that start messing with revenge outside of just hardcore shutting it down. Perhaps feats that allow you to speed up or slow down revenge gain percentages if you activate them for a certain point could be fun to mess with.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
But yeah, like, speaking of testing grounds, actually, all of that on Gryphon itself, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 people in testing grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobu Warden, PK, and Shigoki.
Yep.
Do we start with Shugo first? Because that's probably the most glaring one, because his rework was actually enough from what I understand, from what I've played and understand.
Yeah.
Who wants to break the sad news about why it's a nerf?
Loss of armor on Hug, Pepe hands.
Yeah, now every character can just zone off.
Yeah. It's so annoying. That was like the one good thing he had going for him when he was like ganking with somebody with like a dodge attack. He would just go through the dash attack and land a hug and teammate gets a heavy. Now it's just like, oh, haha, you got Zoro Esther, you got dash attacked.
Yeah.
No hug for you.
I mean, his headbutt's really good. It just had like stuffing, guard breaks, and stuff like that.
His headbutt's a really good like dodge bash OS.
It's good iframes. It's pretty good. But if they just gave him armor with his hug.
Yeah, I think he'd be very good. With his roll catch too.
Yeah, roll catch, and he has staggering blow. 45 seconds.
The roll catch thing makes me a bit sad though, because they added the roll catches. It's like, yeah, this is the way to punish someone from, just option select rolling your mix up. The unfortunate problem is the hyper armor removal of the hug means you don't need to roll anymore.
Yeah, you don't need a hug.
Pointless.
There's no reason to roll catch if nobody's rolling from your mix up.
Yeah. You can do multiple things now. You can zone. You can just light attack them out of it. Dash attack.
I mainly like that his hug recovery was shortened.
Oh yeah, that's
if you dodge hug now, you most of the time can't get a heavy off of it. You just need a GB. It's no longer
several business weeks. It's just like a 1 day's worth of recovery.
Yeah,
it's not horrendous anymore.
It's very neat.
So what are your guys' thoughts on the reasoning behind removing the hug? Is it just, do MM players think that it's just too oppressive, too hard to fight against, or what?
I was told, during EA, hug is the most landing move in the game. 80% success rate.
They said that on stream. Yeah, it's
you're
like,
right. Yeah,
80%. You're having a bloody laugh. Really?
When they first told us that info, I'm like, oh my god, they literally that's all from wall splats or something. But only a few percent of that is from a wall splat. The rest is just MM players being garbage.
Right.
Or console players. I don't know.
Well, and it could be console because we know that they combine data from both to make.
It's a crazy stat.
Yeah, that is a crazy.
It's admittedly, to play devil's advocate here for a second, it might just not necessarily be people being bad in the sense of low skill. That kind of knowledge of, hey, you can get out of the mix-up via 1, 2, and 3 is not something people will necessarily look up. It's not in the in-game tutorials, for example. So it's those kind of concepts aren't necessarily taught immediately, and some people are looking to get on For Honor just to to muck around for a bit, cut off some heads and then bugger off after playing their favorite Viking samurai or Chinese warrior. So it's like, yeah, a character like Shugoki who's got hyper armor, who's got, oh no, big scary Kanabo hits coming in, or the hug, that's the one move where if you're going to get an 80% hit rate in casual, that's probably going to be the one to do it. Although, if once you learn about it, it's like, that just goes out the window. And although that does make me a bit of a hypocrite because I knew about things like option selecting and I still autopilot in matchmaking and get hugged all the time. So, very much, the pot calling the kettle black on that one from me. But there's a little bit of understanding from me there.
Yeah, so that's just people either not seeking out that information or not knowing it, because there's plenty of that information out there outside of the competitive subreddit. I mean, there's so many content creators that you can either watch them do it or they've talked about it in some way. Even with the statistic like 80% of it landing, it still seems weird to get rid of that, because Ubisoft has always been big on character identity, and of course they've kind of moved away from that a little bit to try and help these different characters become competitively viable. But to me, like Shugoki, like this hyper armor really feels like that's what this character should be, what this character should have. And I don't mean like when he had it passively after a few seconds, like that was terrible. But like having him have this hyper armor on everything just seems like it's part of the character's identity. So it just seems weird that they would take that away, and really just takes away power from him, obviously, but from a viability standpoint. But it also just doesn't feel like Shugoki as much. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't play him all that much, but when I think of Shugoki, hyper armor is one of the things that I think of and that I think he should have.
It's like even going like way back into the old days of comp. It's like I very distinctly remember when I think of Shugo, it is hyper armor monster running up and down Cathedral mid in a 1v1 Cypher PK versus Peetmu. But that's the thing. It's a hyper armor trading monstrosity coming at you. Now it's like, what is since For Honor seems to focus so much on core identity, what is the identity of Shugoki? It's like he's got next to the hyper armor now. His trading it's all right. It's not particularly insane. Like, you could argue in some cases gets knocked out of the water by characters like Gryphon and Hitokiri, somewhat. But now it's just. But put it this way, I'm glad that the likes of Sophie McSophie Face are not necessarily coming back in, because they would be quite sad. Poor Shugo. But yeah, that was only one character off testing grounds, right? There was like 3 others.
Yep.
Yeah. There was PK, Warden, and Nobushi as well. So let's I'm interested to hear what you guys think about Nobushi, because I know this character has not been good for very long, but before that was almost a must pick or a must pick in competitive For Honor. We saw Nobushi quite a lot, and just like we've seen Shaman quite a bit. So now these rework changes come in. It seems like Ubisoft's trying to breathe a little bit of life into Nobu to try and give her a bit more tools to be viable, or at least be able to run with these other characters. What do you guys think? Were they successful or not?
I think she's still gonna be the same. She won't get picked.
She's not that good. She's still pretty bad.
I did find her annoying to fight during TG, but I think that's only because I didn't know her new chains.
Yeah, like once people learn her, she's gonna be back where she is.
Yeah. I think they need to make her kick like 500.
Yeah.
Not 566 or whatever it is.
Her kick needs to be a lot faster.
Yeah. Another, I don't mind 500 in-chain bashes. It's just she gets a light or a bleed off of it. It's not like some absurd 28 damage heavy that you get like Gryphon.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't that good.
But besides the kick, I don't know what else she would need. I only played Nobu during her glory days. I don't know what the heck she needs now.
Yeah, it's like, at least the chaining stuff was nice. Being able to get heavy finisher off Cobra Strike and Sidewinder allowed for some, at the very minimum, visual variety. But because one is so used to seeing after Sidewinder or Cobra Strike, you just dash, cancel right out of it. Now it's like the heavy finisher is there, but even the heavy finisher out of those 2 moves don't get the undodgeable property because the undodgeable property came from hidden stance if you launch those moves out of there. So it's this weird dichotomy where it feels nice and it looks nice, but heavy finisher out of Cobra Strike or Sidewinder was a lot of it just kind of seemed alright. It's a different flavor of Nobu, but it's not gonna change Nobu's placement in opinions or success.
Literally just made her clear better. That's it, I think. And
which is technically a buff in some cases, in most cases in comp.
It is, but you have like so many other characters that are much better at clearing and can hold their own.
I mean, right now the meta characters, 3 of them have amazing clear.
Yeah, and 3 of them, or all of them, would just destroy Nobu if they were just to do like a 1v1 in mid.
BP has really good clear. Santa has really good clear, and Warmonger has really good clear. And they're really good at like 1v1ing too in mid. Yeah. You need someone that could 1v1 in mid and pressure a lot, but Nobushi can't really do anything. Sure.
Nobu's like Kensei. She can only team fight. If you put her in a 1v1, she's kind of screwed.
When the small time when Nobu was run, it was usually distinctly because of the synergy with Shaman in some niche teams' compositions. Like Way of the Shark plus Shaman ganks was nuts because the
you got 2 heavies and they were Way of the Shark.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It does.
It's like outside of spinning vigorously in the mid lane with Zone.
It was just one Shaman gank, anyone's guaranteed dead. But that wasn't the character though. So
I mean, I'm pretty sure she was picked because like how good Hidden Stance was back then too.
Yeah, Hidden Stance, you
could not be touched by any mix-up. You just Hidden Stance option select.
Too much about that.
Yeah, I was a bit late to the party playing Nobu.
I used to play Raider into it, and nothing I did worked ever.
Yeah.
Just for those watching or listening right now that don't necessarily grasp how much stuff Nobu could stuff, what moves could get through a top tier Nobu who knew how to option select? Was there anything that could?
I don't remember.
Outright blank.
It was usually like a read like on a light, like you can light.
It's like GBOS now. You would have to like feint your UB or whatever into light.
Yep.
It's just like punishing GBOS. But I think a year and a half ago, I was a lot worse at this game. So I wouldn't have done that. Like anytime I would run into Danny's Nobu and like MM or something, it was very cringe because I didn't know what the fuck to do. Then I was playing JJ, so I have 2 hit chains and my UBs suck massive dick. So sorry I'm cursing a lot on your stream, but Nobu was AIDS to play against back then.
Yeah, and then other 2, Peacekeeper, Warden. Warden's probably going to be the shorter conversation, but it's like, no more backdash, shoulder bash. Yeah! Like, that's nice to not have anymore. No extra movement. After you cancel a fully charge, you don't get that weird moonwalk effect. It's like, alright. The big change, though, outside of the standard recovery shortenings, was all your heavies, all directions now were unblockable, which, I mean, it's going to be somewhat nice for team fighting. You don't necessarily have to just have that narrow hitbox of top heavy. You've got the sides now, which has a little bit more range. Like, it's not Gryphon or anything, but it's there. It exists technically. But probably not going to do too much for Warden in the grand scheme of things. Just makes him a little bit more variety in ones with losing probably one of the more powerful tools.
Forward movement on the side UBs are like amazing.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
It's just the damage is too much.
Yeah.
It's 35, and his top UB does less, I think, or it did. I'm sure they'll change that. I think he's another character that's going to be like really aids to gank because he could just go into shoulder bash after any attack. And his Zor is like it's 500 MS recovery now.
Yeah,
it's
so
just you're
just a little bit better.
Yeah, you're gonna be throwing it out like a warlord zone too if you're in a team fight.
I do think because of Gryphon, we probably won't see as much Warden in terms of competitive. I don't think he's good enough. But one of the things that was keeping, at least for me, keeping Warden in contention for being a competitively viable pick, or maybe a niche competitive pick, is because of his thick blood. But now that we have the prevalence of Shaman is pretty much gone because of Centurion, and now we have Gryphon, which has, depending on how many of his unique feats survive, pretty much all of them heal. So I feel like what you would pick Warden for is just eliminated because either Shaman's not there or because Gryphon is probably going to be played.
I don't think Warden will make it into like the meta or main 4 or 5. It's just another thing like
Warmonger's feats to get nerfed.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
But it's just like another, we're playing pickups. You can have fun playing Warden in 4s now if you want.
Yeah. So then I have a question. What for you guys? What makes Warmonger a better pick than Warden? Is it just her feats, or what is it?
Feats, yeah. I mean, you put her tier 1 alone is better than almost every character's tier 4 in the game right now.
Yeah.
I mean, without the feats, like, Warden would be better.
Yeah. If they somehow like manage to nerf the tier 1, her tier 1 just allows you to get like ganks off with ease now.
Right. Yeah.
And if they just like, I don't know how they would nerf it, but if they make any
AOE, perhaps make it less radius.
Even if they make it less radius, your teammate's still gonna get ganked.
Yeah, it's the fact, like, say if you're really low HP, like the Warmonger is low, and you come to a fight, and then your teammate shows up, and you're fighting someone, 2 people full HP. Warmonger pops your tier 1. The teammate can't do anything anymore, and they just gank the full HP guy while the Warmonger's low. If she has her heal feats up, she heals the whole process while ganking him, and then it becomes 2v1. The really strong part about that feat is it just pressures you to just watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of the AoE, even if the AoE was like the smallest thing ever, you can't get into
you can't step in it, yeah.
Unless you're like Shinobi.
I haven't played
Shinobi confirmed viable for competitive heavies. My dream.
I think the only time you would step in your AoE is if your teammate's about to get Venge, because it does give tags.
Yep, it does.
Only time you would do it.
Yeah.
But even then you're risking it. Yeah.
I shorten the time how long you last.
Yeah, it's like 15 seconds when you pop your tier 1. You have 15 seconds to land something.
Yeah, and if there's a scent there, like it's a guaranteed GG.
Yeah. What if something like removing the debuff after taking a certain amount of damage?
Like a limited amount, like a fixed amount of this much and then it goes.
Yeah, and still having the same time, or maybe reducing the time, but like making it to where after a certain amount of damage, the debuff wears off.
I wonder how hard that would be too, like just to calculate both the damage done by the other the teammate and Warmonger though.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty hard.
It would nerf the tier 4 too, and it would nerf Nusha. So. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
that's true. Nusha
infection
also
is tied to corruption. Yeah,
that's it's the same feat. So
yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's hard. Tier 1's too strong on Warmonger, like for sure. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like you're winning a team fight and Warmonger shows up. Okay, you're not winning it anymore.
Alright, you're so lucky. You missed when it procced in minions. Like
yeah. I heard. Yeah.
It was even worse. Nobody wanted to play MM.
Nope.
I commentated one tournament that allowed the feats, Warmonger in with her feats as like a sort of a test tournament to show why they were being banned for that period of time. Oh my lord. Every match went exactly the same way. Warmongers, because they're Vanguard, get the best like minion profit with renown. So they always rush the mid, farm minions past each other, just ignoring each other, go just lawnmower through the minions. Whoever gets the feat first with a enemy minion nearby wins. Just guaranteed. Because you only needed one little bugger to trigger the corruption damage. Oh, that was a damn good reason why that feat got nerfed. Those were some oh, gutting matches because so many good fights, so many well executed ganks just got completely dunked with a single press of a button. And not like you guys were saying these days where it's just a gank. It's anywhere on the map where a minion could be. Even on maps like Citadel Gate where you've got stray minions kind of perusing the area and random places having those little 1v1 fights. Those could prop the bloody corruption too. So you could just get cucked by random minions that you didn't think about. And it's the worst feeling on the planet.
I think that's why, like, everyone didn't think Warmonger was, like, a crazy character, because her tier 1 was banned for a really long time, even when they nerfed it. So,
there are, you're perusing the Twitch directory when Warmonger was out. You got quite a variation of opinions as to whether the character was way too strong, the character wasn't strong at all, you just don't get hit.
You're getting good opinions now too.
Yeah, we are getting very good opinions. we see the same thing with Gryphon. I've seen streamers that just say that Gryphon is fine, that he's balanced, everything's okay. Then I see other streamers and people who are just say like, nope, this character is way too strong. I don't know. I like to see a different kind of playstyle. I like that what Warmonger does is separate people so you can't get a gank. That's something that we really haven't seen before, built into a mechanic, into a character. I think something like that is cool. I think implementing something like that makes the game interesting to play because it's something you also have to play around. It's just the mechanic is just been implemented in such a way where it's too strong and needs to be cut back somehow. But I like introducing that into the core mechanics of a character. Moveset design wise, I think it's cool, but it's just too
Speaking
strong.
of changes though, if we're talking about changes, the final one from Testing Grounds, Peacekeeper. And Peacekeeper had some interesting ones. We'll go over, for me personally, the biggest one wasn't even the changes to necessarily her core kit, but they made the deflect a heavy attack input instead of a light input after all this time. Why? Like, what was the point? It was just it just kind of seemed one of those weird changes because now it's a case of because players could not want to necessarily go for a dodge heavy on side dodge or forward dodge. Now it's a case of you end up accidentally doing option selects where you didn't mean to, and it can sometimes get you parried in places where the enemy faints. So now that's technically a nerf in some circumstances just off one change alone. Although, admittedly, some of the other Peacekeeper changes were quite nice. You know, the biggest one everyone knows, of course, is when the opponent is bleeding, second hit of zone and heavy finishes were all unblockable. Like, what do you guys think overall that was a big deal, or like still not ready for PK?
It made her so much more fun to play.
She's fun, yeah, for sure. Like, but I don't think she'll be picked.
I mean,
good.
Yeah, you're not gonna see her in like high level comp.
Yeah, she's like semi-usable. She's like
almost back to her like glory days. Her damage was a little crazy. They added like 5 damage to every attack, and forgot that she still has bleed after. So she did like 38 damage on GB, and her heavy finishers. I don't know the right. I don't remember the numbers, but they were something else.
High.
Yeah. I was just blowing people up when I was playing PK. It was the most fun I've had in For Honor in like a while. at least.
Yeah, unless you ran into a stack of Gryphons, and then you just never had anybody bled for any length of time.
Exactly.
I do distinctly remember a weird stack I ran into when playing the Testing Grounds one time, where it was four PKs, and all they would do is all run stealth. They'd have one person initiate a fight, and then almost like that weird Shinobi playstyle where they sit outside your FOV of the camera and just throw sickles in, PKs would just sprint in and try and GB you out of recoveries, get the stabs, and leave. It was so weird, but the amount of damage you got off the GB with the improved GB hits, plus that style, kind of made me a little bit concerned. Admittedly, as well, there, of course, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's not just the unblockable stuff. the zone attack was technically considered enhanced, so the first hit you didn't immediately bounce. You could get to the second hit, and if that got parried, it wasn't a light reaction anymore. It was a heavy. Admittedly, if this was old PK, that would be a significant buff, but 8 days of option selecting everything under the sun, with at least zone for PK, is somewhat gone, but the extra soft fainting as well on the second hit of the zone is nice. But like you gents said, Peacekeeper is probably not going to hit the high notes of end of Dominion series finals, even if the changes were to come in tomorrow, hypothetically.
Yeah,
that's about.
Unfortunate.
Go.
I was just gonna say it's unfortunate that most of these changes that we saw really aren't going to propel any of these characters forward. I like to play Warden quite a bit. I like to play Berserker. Berserker also got nerfed because revenge attacks are now gone. So Berserker is officially
that
dead.
That slipped in low key. That one was strange. Like I'm looking through the patch notes right now, and it wasn't listed basically anywhere. Just surprise. Revenge attacks is gone.
Yeah, revenge attacks are gone. It's now, what is it? Execution. I don't remember what it's called.
Executioner's Respite.
Respite. Okay, yeah. You basically get more HP the longer the execution is.
It was very exciting to see when
Shinobi's getting full HP off one execute.
Yeah. It's just worse bounty hunter. I think characters just have their other tier 2s are just better than that. No.
Yeah. Yeah,
and Bounty Hunter.
I'm gonna miss playing. Yeah, I didn't know Bounty Hunter was 30 HP. We always thought it was 25, but
it's still broken.
It's still pretty good. Yeah, the 10 HP nerf was like nothing.
Yeah,
it needs to be 15.
Yeah, not a full bar of HP.
It's the thing it's because you can like guard break for an heavy and get an execute also.
Yeah, you get 20 plus 50 HP execute.
Especially if you have a really fast execution, and it's really heavy on guard break, especially for like Send.
Yeah, Send has all of that.
So.
Yeah. But it's the same with Warden. I was hoping that with the unblockable changes that he would see a bit of play, but he's not going to see any play. Peacekeeper's not going to be played in competitive. Nobu's not going to be played in competitive. Shigoki's not going to be played in competitive. So it's nice to see some of these characters receive some changes and being looked at, but from a competitive standpoint, it's just disappointing because there's just yet again another round of TG changes that isn't really going to change all that much. And it's just disappointing to me, especially for the amount of times that they use the testing grounds. They very rarely use it anymore, and I wish they would use it more. I wish every week or 2 weeks that we would have a new testing ground event that would change something small or something, and then just go, instead of using it as like this, trying to be this big thing. We're testing a ton of stuff at once instead of testing a couple little things here and there.
Yeah, with the way it's implemented too, it's primed for that. Like, compare literally another Ubisoft game, Rainbow Six Siege. They've got a separate client you've got to download, and they often test bigger changes in batches before seasons come out. And they'll do more frequent ones too afterwards. That's why it can often feel like, if you're a Siege fan, like, oh, the new season's not out already? I've been seeing content about it for ages. Like, several weeks before a new season drops. Mm-hmm. But with For Honor, it's in the client, which you'd think would leave it predisposed to being much more frequent. You could do smaller little tweaks here and there, or even experimental things. Like, for example, what if they just randomly decided, okay, this week the Testing Grounds playlist has no parry flash. Go. Mm-hmm. Kind of like how, random example, Dead by Daylight is doing some random experimental things recently where they removed the Bloodlust mechanic. They're just doing experiments to see how it works. Yeah. I would love to see them use this more freer form of Testing Grounds where you don't have to download a separate big bloody client to try out these little suggestions and different things, but it's so bloody rare. Like you said, it's why is it even here?
Mm-hmm. The times they do it, they never last the full week. You'll get like a couple of good days. The first few days will be good, and then the queues are just dead.
Yeah, no one plays them. Even if they did it more frequently, no one plays them.
There's no like incentive to go play it.
They should make like more rewards, like more unique to force kind of people to play them. But like, there's right now, no one wants to play them. Like, there's no incentive to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean that's with like any game mode. There's no real major incentive to go back to playing Elimination or Skirmish or Tribute or even Breach. breaches only played during double XP, and the recent double XP breach was super dead, at least in NA. Like, people just play Dom or duels or brawls.
It's also that it's just a lot of players like that play MM. They don't really care about.
Fair. Yeah.
They don't really care like about the game that much. They just want to play casually.
Mm-hmm.
Spam buttons. They don't care what changes come and what changes don't come.
Yeah, and I think adding an additional incentive structure, like you were saying, Bodrat, would help these casual players play them more. Because I completely agree. I would argue that the majority of the For Honor player base probably doesn't care too much about the testing ground changes unless it's a character that they like to play is being changed. But if they had like double rewards, or you get a certain like a color palette or an outfit or whatever that looks like for playing a certain amount of TG, I think we would see more people play it. But that's been
just make it double XP. Like that mode, make it double XP for that week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the biggest TG they saw was probably Scent.
Yeah.
For the Scent rework, and it won't get bigger than that. Like even the introduction to CCU, that died after a couple of days. Nobody was playing that.
Yeah, no one really liked that too.
Well, the damage numbers were so like broken first week and second week, and then like I'm glad they released it and went through with CCU. It's a good change. Game's been a lot more fun.
It's just a lot of MM players don't like it.
Yeah, so. Like the feedback that they'll get on it most of the time is just not good.
Yeah.
Like more steal, like what Gagagi just said, double rewards. Yeah, like double steal, double everything. People
like it won't hurt. It's only for a week that they do it normally. So
like they're losing money, they'll.
Yeah.
It's just in-game currency, or in-game rewards, or whatever.
And like Robert's already pointed out, it's just a problem with most of these other game modes as well. Even ranked, people don't play ranked because duels, but their rewards for ranked aren't enough, and so people don't play. So queue times are super high. Like it just seems like it's a problem for for almost every game mode, Dominion being the exception.
I'm looking at Gar's message. For Honor has a testing server that never gets used. I think now that they have their testing grounds in game, it's a lot better than having their own testing server. If they had a testing server, that's another thing you have to install.
Yeah, no one would play that.
Yeah,
like, you have to download it.
You have to. There's more steps to getting to test out these new changes.
Yeah.
You just have to launch For Honor. Even on console players aren't not going to get a testing server.
Yeah.
So like even though the data will be hella skewed from console, at least console players can like see and try out changes just because it's on like the live game client.
Yeah.
Like, I know like Siege has the extra, but the Siege is also a lot bigger game. It doesn't make sense for this game.
Yeah, I like having a completely different server for testing big things. Like when Marching Fire came out, I thought it was cool to have the testing server because you knew you were testing multiple characters, you were testing a new mode and everything like that. So a testing server made sense for something that had that much content in it. But we haven't really gotten anything, in comparison to Marching Fire in terms of content being released since then. So there's just really no need. A playlist basically suffices.
Yep. They should just like focus on Dominion and just.
I'm surprised they haven't tried messing with like Revenge. They like removing UI changes. Yeah. I'm glad that they got rid of the big ass bar in the bottom left, but I want to see them do something with Revenge.
Yeah, I read a post on Reddit the other day that Revenge was just fine and needed to be buffed.
I'm down. Let Vengeful Barrier just be, the norm.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like Revenge is in a decent spot, but the biggest problem for me is that you can just hold it for too long. That's my biggest problem.
Yeah, revenge holding. Test out that on the testing grounds
Yeah.
1 week. Just like, hey, you can't hold revenge anymore. After a X amount of time, it starts automatically draining no matter what.
Yeah.
See how that goes. You can do these very short sprints and just see what happens with like messing around with things, or even like hell, you could start randomly like messing with feats. Like hypothetically, what happens if Blissful Rest was brought back for Nabushi in full fat for a week?
Ooh.
Oh no,
Remember
no.
old Blissful Rest?
I don't know
Those-
about that.
Yeah, the older ones immediately go in terror, but would that improve Nabushi's like play rating comp if Blissful Rest got brought back?
Right
for a
now,
week?
feats are like one of the main reasons why a lot of characters are used. So
Yeah.
it's like a feedy meta right now. Like a lot of
Just
characters that are
falling.
used. Yeah, a lot of good feats. Like every meta pick right now, every single character has good feats.
Yeah.
And there's also a reason why Kensei, one not being good at 1v1s and other his feats not being really good is another reason why he's not picked anymore. But look at every other character with their feats, Instruing with Pugio, Bounty Hunter, Haymaker, Phalanx, BP with all really good feats, Warmonger, and then Warlord with Juggernaut, Fury, Fire Flask. It's crazy.
So the last thing I know, it was tested in TG, but it's also in the game now. Was Beachhead. Beachhead has been changed significantly, which for the most part I'm pretty happy about. I was never a big fan of the spikes and all the ledges. There are still some ledges and everything like that, but there's a bridge now. Mid is pretty much the same. The points are a little bit different. So from Verb, I kind of wanted to start with you. I know you don't play competitively, but I wanted your thoughts on the map and if you think you would see it in in the competitive rotation and how you would feel casting on that map.
Just from a spectator's perspective, having more competitively legal maps, yes, bloody please. Like they tried to make Sentinel competitively legal, that didn't go well. But Beachhead was a surprising one. Beachhead used to be the absolute no-goiest of no-go zones, but now it's a legitimate contender to be added into the rotations, and it's an interesting map to like not only look at, watch, but the layout in of itself provides some interesting connotations because it's not necessarily like a Citadel gate where it's macro intense 24/7, but it isn't exactly a sank bridge either or a harbor where it's just unga bunga down mid who wins team fights because of the new bridge over the top, but mid stayed relatively the same. Admittedly, there is still some attacker bias because correct me if I'm wrong, in my experience, they didn't fix the pools of water that you can ledge on next to the portcullis on the defender side of B. So because of that, if an attacker pushes up on Beachhead and locks down that area, fighting there in theory is easier because you've got free access to ledges where if the attacker or the defenders push the attackers back to where the fiery Merlons essentially are, the wooden palisades in the ground, it's just some fire. Neat. Maybe a threatening ledge drop, maybe from C Point. That's about it. But overall, Beachhead, it's like much better. Although admittedly there is some weird little niggles here and there. For example, what Jeebus is mentioning, stairs on attacker point being blocked has led to some funny stuff here and there. Okay, never mind. Raawhit literally responded in chat. It's because you can't stall. There we are.
Yeah.
Reasonings.
I mean, I don't really like mid on Beachhead, but like again, you have to scrim on the map, see how it feels in a competitive setting, and go from there.
I don't think there's been any like full blown serious like
On Beachhead, yeah.
decision where that.
I don't like how mid. I don't like. I'm just not a huge fan of mid being extremely big with so many minions. I just don't even like minions in general. But
I wish Sentinel was played more as well.
Yeah,
I think
no
Sentinel, the Sentinel with no blisses, I don't think it'd be a bad map.
Yeah, it's fun team fight map, especially C. So much area to fight. It's like Carousel of Death in that little room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see mid being the biggest problem in Beachhead because it's so like Verb pointed out. There's it's favored towards one side, and it's just huge. So it's going to be difficult to clear in a timely fashion. Does anybody know if mid is bigger than it is on Citadel or High Fort, or is it the same?
No clue.
It
I'm not a
seems
fan
like there's a
of
lot.
grid.
It seems like it's huge.
In terms of real estate or amount of minions?
like how big the line is, because I feel like there's just even more minions. But that could just be because of how it feels.
I want to say the outright line is smaller, but not by much.
Okay.
Because Citadel Gate is wide open, but you've got obstructions on both ends of Beachhead. You've got the water next to you got the moat essentially on the defender's side, and on the attacker's side, you've got the fiery Merlons. So, admittedly, that is a much bigger though. So I want to say it is smaller, but not by a lot. It's still a very, very big mid. It's probably like the second biggest mid now in competitively viable maps in the game, I'd want to say.
I think the whole map is just attacker favored because, like, if the attackers have C point as their home, and they just have stairs going straight to mid, while defenders have to go down like the weird ramp, and they blocked off the plunge spot. So you either go down the ladder to mid, or you just walk down the really long ramp. Well, where C point team just has to go down some stairs. Also, I don't like the bridge connecting the 2 points, because let's say you have C and B, you can just keep a fight going on forever at A if you just like keep going in and out to go heal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some Forge gaming.
Oh, Forge.
Okay.
Wow. That's a map I haven't thought about in a while.
That's just
me.
Lord. I missed the spikes. I don't know.
Yo, Beric, what do you mean by that? Like, do you mean like rotations don't happen on that map, or?
Beric says,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, but Beric says, I mean, the map is very different to every other maps, but rotations barely matter because they never happen.
Is that because the map is still new, or because of the design of the map? Maybe people would figure out the correct rotations if...
It's just hard to rotate on that map, like, even when playing matchmaking, but, like I said, it's hard to tell until you actually scrim on it.
Yeah, like, C to B is just your main rotation. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what Bear said.
Like, me personally, like, the map is a lot better, yeah, but I just don't personally like maps with really big mids and a lot of minions. And really big maps in general. Besides, like, Sentinel, just because.
Yeah.
A lot more team fights.
Yeah, so it seems like there's just like a hybrid of these other maps kind of, mixed together in Beachhead that just makes it a bit problematic. It's huge. So usually that's a macro thing, but at the same time, because of how everything's laid out, you're not really going to see the rotations all that much. Mid is a big deal because it's hard to take because it's so massive, and one team is going to get there just much later than the other team, depending on which side you're on. So it just seems like it has too many issues to. I mean, as of now, in my eyes, to be competitively viable, unless we see different results from serious scrims on the map. It just doesn't seem like it's there.
Okay, I got what you meant, Beric. Yeah.
I think I'd rather just throw Sentinel into the rotation than Beachhead, to be honest.
I like maps with like where there's a lot of like action going on, and like you're not forced to play like PVM with minions, like a lot of action, like a lot of rotations happening. You gotta watch out for a lot of things. Like I personally like Harbor a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it might be an unpopular opinion, but there's just so much action going on.
It's a team fight based map.
Yeah. For me as well, like I found my little like go-to formula for how much I like a map, like watching or playing on it, is when I'm running production for a show, when I'm running the camera, the more frequently I'm worried about missing something on another point, the more action-packed the map tends to be for me. Because, for example, Temple Garden, great map balance-wise. However, I feel like at this point I could probably make a keybind just to have the camera in free cam watching from C to mid and just leave it there. Because nothing barely happens on A unless you've got, like, Otto versus like Shiz or something, like Sharmanov. And because that, apart from that, not much really goes on A until like the final few minutes, versus say something like Harbor, like you said. Harbor, things are happening all the bloody time. Yeah, there's small biases here and there, like in minute seconds, to where certain people can get to certain points on the map. But for the most part, fights are pretty consistent over all 3 points. So you get a visual variety. It's not just a case of, oh, here we go, we're on C point on Temple Garden again. Ugh, excuse me. So a map like that, where you could see fights happening more and more over, I personally quite look forward to it. Yeah. Instead of it being so 1 point biased. Although, actually, side note before we jump off the testing grounds topic, more testing grounds to test map changes. Ladder from B to A on Temple Garden when, please? I'd like to see that being tested.
I mean, like technically, they have it in the game already.
Yeah, the skirmish variant of the map.
Yeah, but I just don't like ladders in general. I feel like they need to do something different.
I'm so bad at like ladder fights. Like I always die.
Like ladders on Citadel, ladders on Overwatch. Just get rid of ladders.
Less the better. Like I hate ladders. Anytime I'm on a ladder, like I just get like wrecked.
Yeah, you either are forced to do a ladder onesie, or you just eat a bunch of heavies, or you just eat free damage coming off a ladder. It's like,
or like you try to go on. Like it's really bad.
I always have the issue going up a ladder because I always come back down for some reason.
Oh, you go immediately end up.
Yeah, it's just like a weird bug or something.
Yeah,
or,
I have that too.
I don't know what it is, but it just always happens. Yeah. Only on Citadel.
I have problem on Harbor when I'm running by the ladder on my way to A point, and I'm not even close to the ladder, but I'll just I'll run past it, and then I'll just start going up, and then I have to drop back down and go. It's like I'm not even pushing towards the ladder, but yeah,
magnetism.
I'm all for getting rid of.
It's like I have like an elevator. I hate.
Yeah.
Oh, an elevator that you could activate could have some shenanigans.
Oh yeah.
I hate ladders.
Have it to where they can kill, like on Sanctuary Bridge. Like you lower the trap, it kills somebody, but the elevator does the same thing.
Oh yeah, have it on in front of A, so that bit underneath becomes a death trap. So you could just. Would you want more death traps though?
And it would be slow though. It would be slow, so it would be difficult to pull. It'd be something like the Forge hammers, where it comes down pretty quick, but there's quite a bit of time in between when it slams down and when it doesn't. So you can play around it. I don't know. Something, but I agree, something different.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of maps are still really bad. Just like I hate points that you can just stall on and just run around. It's so annoying, especially as a BP player. Like, they need to like fix just stalling in general on points. Like, remove those posts. Make them open. Like, no one cares about like a little fire thingy in the middle of the thing that you can just run around for an hour. Citadel is the worst. I hate that map.
That's my biggest problem with Citadel.
Every point on Citadel, you can just run around, just keep running around.
Yeah, I would love to see them implement something similar to what Smash does. You have in Smash Ultimate, I think in Smash 4 like as well. Level? Yeah, you have the level where it's how it normally is, like Battlefield,
Omega, and
right, and then you have you have Battlefield where you have the 3 platforms. Then you can do Omega, which is just Final Destination. It's just flat.
Yep.
So having something similar, for comp would be nice. Like still have some of the same aesthetics, but take away like the things in the middle that people can stall around, etc.
Yeah,
but I think
wish they did that. Yeah, for sure. But I don't think they would. They would have.
I don't think so either.
3 map for like everyone, not just have options.
Yeah.
And Citadel, they gotta remove a lot of stuff, so you can't. I just say like when you can just stall on points forever, like, and there's no like counterplay to it, unless a teammate comes.
Yep. All right. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about in terms of Gryphon or TG?
Well, that's a good point. Like increased running speed when chasing.
Yeah. Well, they implemented something like that in duels. If you ran away for a certain amount of times.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be harder to implement in fours though, because in duels it's very obvious that you're running away from somebody. But what if you're in a fight, you get peel from your teammate, and you're running back to heal? Does how would the game?
You get this slow debuff running.
Right, yeah. So, like, how would the game, would it be based off of tags? Like, if somebody has another tag from somebody else, then you won't get that debuff or something like that? Like, I feel like it would be a little tougher to do.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
Even more tags could be problematic, not just from a comp level, but from a standard play level. Like, the game does not tell you about revenge tags at all. They're an invisible system you have to keep track of after learning it extraneously. But also randomly being slowed for some reason, unless you had an obnoxious pop-up, which, I mean, this is For Honor, it had experience with obnoxious UI pop-ups, like saying, like, hey, you're being slowed for this reason, warrior, be brave, or blah-de-blah-de-blah. Like, an extra system to rely on with tags could get iffy for the standard player base.
Yeah.
They'd have to implement something, like, just fix that problem, because you make a good rotation, like, you're like, oh wow, I made a good rotation. And then they just run around with 1 HP, and you can't kill them. Like, it's really annoying.
Yeah. Shades of the Dominion series broadcast a few weeks ago, where there's a clip from that Filthy Spaniard made, where someone's running around the pillars on A point on Temple Garden, just using them to buy time until the teammates got there.
Yeah.
So even the smaller pillars, let alone the huge bloody brazier on Citadel Gate and the pillars on the other point on Citadel Gate, where you can run around for bloody years, it feels like.
Yep. Oh, it's so annoying.
Speaking of Dominion series, Cerezu, clean transition.
Yeah, I was saying, if we're done with TG and Gryphon, nobody had anything else to say, I was going to move on to Dominion series. So this topic, I wanted to talk about, multiple aspects of it. Like, there's the casting aspect, the production, the game, the games itself, players in it. So Raawhit, I wanted to start with you and see if you had, as you've been watching, and obviously you guys have played and you've qualified and everything, is there teams that you have been keeping your eye out on, for NA and EU, like for just different surprise picks, or are there any like upsets or surprises that you get that you were not expecting?
For NA, I think it was a surprise to everyone during closed qualifiers. Like the top two teams were, one team didn't qualify and we got second. Also, my monitor was shaking because I hit my desk on accident. I'm sorry. EU, I don't know a whole bunch, because it's either Nemesis, Semix's team, Tomine's team, and like a few others, and then it's just all Russians. I don't know any of the Russians now. And oh, sorry.
It seems to be like, ironically enough, Russian stacking though. Whenever you think you've figured out, okay, those are the Nova boys, those are those guys, some more just pop out of the woodwork and start popping off doing weird stuff. So I'm curious to see how filled out an all CIS Russian region tournament would be for Honor. How many people there would be. I know they used to run LANs on decently on the regular before COVID.
I think they still do Russian tourneys. I remember Eternity was like screaming for a Russian 2s tourney. I don't know if they do 4s, but pretty sure they're still around.
Yeah, it's like, because the winners of EU was Nemesis Missing Bones, and then NA, if I can pull up the results here, because I have the memory of a literal sieve.
Brutal's Battle Battalion and Shimmies.
Thank you. Brutal Battle Battalion and Shimmies. Was the NA side pretty expected, do you feel, having those two go through?
At least for us, it was expected for us to qualify, but not for Brutal's Battle Battalion. They were like, their old team was just like, there were some issues. And then they just like all came through tourney day. It was very like shocking and surprising. And then, things happened after the day of the tourney, and there's been team changes. So I'm wondering to see how they'll do come the 23rd, because now they're playing with a different fourth.
Yeah. I think pretty much everybody expected Ubu Gang to take second.
Yeah, I mean, like, the first few games were all like upsets. Uga game lost, and we lost our first round games.
Yeah, it's the problem there was like it's the problem with NA is like there's teams that don't want to scrim during the week of the tournament, which I'm really against that mentality in general.
Mm.
So it gets a really.
It's just like everyone's putting up all at their own practice. Like why not?
Swearing. Yeah, like I don't like the mentality of not scrimming your competition. Because like that's just. Yeah,
like, you're gonna see them in tourney anyway.
Yeah.
The game's already
without swearing, but it's really poopy. Let's just say that.
Dude, I've been cursing like the whole time, dude.
I just don't like that. I want to scrim every single team, like even the day of or day
whatever.
Before,
like when it's tourney week, like it's really
it's confident in your own abilities. Like if you say you don't want to scrim because you want to give them practice, but you're also getting practice, so.
If we're not scrimming our like main competition, now we're not getting the best practice we can possibly get.
Right.
Yeah, like if they're getting better, you're getting better too. And if you're already better than them, like you're still improving and seeing their weaknesses and your weaknesses, and you can play around them. Like you can change your like gameplay and like blueprint on tourney day and mix them up. Like you don't have to play exactly like you do in scrims.
I mean, that's what Nemesis did. I think auto scrimmed with Shamsel all week.
Yeah.
They did some secret scrims with like Scent. Come tourney day, he just fucked shit up his Scent. Yeah. Like that's like the only reason I can see you would not want to scrim against like your main competition against like Sebmix and his team. Like a complete character like swap. Nobody thought Otto was coming off Shaman.
Yeah, that was nice. Well, I didn't really watch the whole tournament, but I know he switched to that, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's like Shaman is his signature, so seeing him swap off that is a very rare occurrence.
I mean, like all the Shaman players are swapping. Like Shigs isn't playing Shaman. Yeah, Shigs is on War Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
Also...
No, go ahead.
Side note for those of you watching live, I do believe Twitch just died, so if you're asking questions in the chat right now for us, I don't believe we can see them right now. At least for me, like Twitch is just having a panic attack. So apologies for you guys watching live. For those of you watching the recording afterwards, no big deal. But yes, like you were saying, seeing the regulars swap off because of that, always interesting to see. Although I wonder going further into the Dominion series as a whole, how much we'll be seeing of that. Because the art of pocket strats or pocket picks isn't too explored in For Honor because of the size of the roster isn't like a traditional full-on MOBA, but it's not a fighting game either where the kits are so deep you could start pulling out some of the weird stuff. It's normally you would conceal things like ganking strats and little tricks with the map, perhaps, not necessarily a full character, like a team composition, unless you've got something solid up your sleeve to pull out. At least in my experience. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on that. Like, do teams really conceal compositions these days, or is it more of a you conceal tactics?
I think it's just neither. Everybody's playing the same damn comp now. It's like another thing. People don't like their scrims being streamed because they think like, oh, I'm gonna snipe their comms or we're gonna steal their strats. Like we're all playing the same comp at the end of the day. We're playing the same game. I don't think there's anything secretive now. It's just like, I guess it's just like an insecurity thing. I don't know.
It's like in the same sphere of Ubisoft esports, there was a couple well-known cases where teams playing in various stages of Rainbow Six Siege Pro League would try and make sure their matches weren't streamed if possible, or just outright stiff the casters. So people didn't steal their strats. They didn't want their stuff on stream for as long as possible. Like,
I feel like with Siege is different. Like Siege is it's a tactical shooter game.
Yeah, but the idea of trying to hold your strats secret, but it's gonna get out some way somehow. Either someone's gonna get a recording of it, or people talk. Your stuff isn't gonna stay secret for long unless you're actually going to a facility like a lot of League of Legends players used to do before COVID hit, where they would literally have teams fly in, actually in-house play locally to where no one could leak out with a recording. Like, that just doesn't work. Like, this isn't the old StarCraft 2 days, where it was a Wild West of people selling VODs of, like, people on the black market. Like, no, that's not a bloody thing. Like, you don't need to worry about your stuff getting leaked.
Especially in For Honor, like, it's just like, you better team fighter, you win the game. Like, all the rotations and stuff, like, they're easy to learn, and like, it's just whoever is better in terms of 1Zs, 2Zs, and 4Zs, like, they win.
Team that makes the less mistakes will just win. So
there's not like a secret rotation people are hiding, or like secret gang. Like, unless you find like a glitch or something that puts the map in your favor and no one really knows the glitch, that's like the only situation.
Someone tries to figure out insta-kill Warden drop attack from GB 2.0 and just hides that until tournament finals.
I remember the Warden, there was a Warden thing where he would one-shot you back then.
Yeah, the insta-kill where he did the drop attack animation from GB. Like, if someone managed to find version 2 of that somehow and just keep it in your back pocket until the end of Dominion series, that would be a hell of a way to end off. First Dominion series, Polish man steals $1 million from children with illegal Nabushi tech. Second time round, team steals money using illegal Warden tech. That'd be a kick in the dick for Ubisoft. Hopefully nothing like that happens, because Dominion series, bless its heart, is trying to get rid of that old past and actually is doing an okay job of it.
Yeah, I think they've been doing very good. The production just was surprisingly really well for like everything being online. I thought everything went smoothly.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to ask. I was going to ask from a caster's perspective. I mean, you're watching this and you have experience doing casting in multiple games at a high level. So I wanted your opinion on the casting and on the production and everything that you've seen coming out of Dominion series so far.
All right. So getting the obvious out of the way first, the nature of how the talent was put together, what felt a bit last second, and who it wasn't going to be as formative as it was. It naturally, if we had like, Broglers, Raawhits, Bodrats, Kawaiis, Scorebrands, Alernikins on the desk, it would have been 10 times more informative. You had Sohinki there as your resident native For Honor guy. He was slated to be there, and Vivid Naz was meant to be there as well. But there wasn't too much insanity in terms of knowledge because, think about the talent that was there. It was, had to be Las Vegas natives, because the tournament setup, as we learned through the tournament and through various sources, was based out of Las Vegas. And then the actual roster, like, it was strange that the commentary desk lineup wasn't announced until literally hours, or if not minutes, before the show. Like, we knew Sohinki was doing it 24 hours beforehand because he tweeted out about it he put a post on Instagram, I think, about it. But who was the other desk supposed to be? Like, I hadn't received any messages about it. Cerezu hadn't received any messages about it. And none of the other people I checked in had received anything about it. So it was like, all right, what's it going to be? Are they going to tap Vivid? It's like, probably. He's the seasonal For Honor commentator of choice. He's a bloody good chap. Like, that would be a good shout. But as we learned, he wasn't able to do it due to technical difficulties because their setup was in Las Vegas and they used Skype for it, for the video footage of the video feed, I assume, because we saw several Skype-related errors on the stream, unfortunately. And because of that, he wasn't able to get good connection because of latency, He wasn't able to. But the host basically being a giant invasion of Dota talent was something I don't think anyone here could have predicted, because, at least for me, when I first saw the tweet from Sir Action Slacks that he was hosting a For Honor tournament, I had to double check my phone to make sure I wasn't hallucinating, because Sir Action Slacks in the For Honor neighborhood alone is kind of surreal. It would be like randomly opening my phone and seeing like Thorin or was coming in to commentate For Honor. It's just those aren't worlds that mix.
Mhm.
Like, what's going on? I would have expected someone more like a Yipes or like a Tasty Steve, more of a fighting game thing. But the nature of both the hires and the way they displayed it on stream, like the pre-show, if like the EU pre-show, the start of the stream, they were basically doing a giant explainer for the game, and they emphasized it was a MOBA-like game with fighting game elements, I believe was the core. Actually,
Yeah.
let me check my facts on that one. Let me pull the stream up. I can actually pull it up and check now. But during the pre-show, when they were basically explaining what was going on, they were talking about how it was a game with MOBA elements, and so they got MOBA commentators in, essentially. They got Dota talent in, top Dota talent. You know, you've got Siraction Slacks, you've got Capitalist, which was a big one, and Humanist as well. People I was not expecting. And that also kind of tips Ubisoft's hand somewhat with how they view their own game. They do not view it as a fighting game first. They view it as a game with fighting game elements, but also more MOBA-like. So that explains why they brought the talent in as they did. The actual quality of the talent, considering the little time that they had probably to get knowledge in, they did a rather good job. Yeah, it was not informative to the extent that maybe would have expected with homegrown talent, you know, like a Broga, like if everyone watched the impromptu streams that Crack did, or bloody hell, Brogler did at like who knows god time in the morning with like Scorebrand and Clutchmeister, those are like creme de la creme refined desk analytics. They would know, they could tell you exactly what's going on, when, where, and why. But the purpose of this desk, of having Siraction Slacks, the host, you know, just throwing out charisma and memes left, right, and center, and then having Sohinki as well there to be basically the designated For Honor native of the desk to help with the analytical stuff on the side with his prior experience. Like, people may not have necessarily recognized Sohinki, but he's an old talent. Like, way back in the day, he was doing Hero Series with Vivid Naz, like Season 1, Season 2 stuff. And then Capitalist and Humanist, yeah, their knowledge was not necessarily great, but they've got enough experience in the big leagues. You know, these are people used to doing the finals and semifinals of Dota 2 tournaments, internationals in stadiums for millions and millions of dollars. They've got the experience to where they can just bring a brute force approach of personableness and charisma to keep the stream entertaining. And you saw that in the chat. Like, there were people, rightly so, talking about how, like, why isn't there much really in-depth things? It's mostly surface level. But at the same time, it was really pleasant to listen to. And they talked about the more vital things. They knew, you know, break rallies. They knew about map choices. And they even quizzed a bunch of different players. Like, I know Capitalist slid into Mr. Kyle's DMs to ask him about certain things with maps. And I know Filthy Spaniard as well. Like, I don't know if they ever contacted yourself, Raawhit, or yourself, Bodrat, for additional info, but they did their homework at least. They didn't just come in here for a payday. Like, they did a bloody good show.
Yeah, and I do know that there were different casters as well who were watching different games and were in VC with other competitive players, learning
Freeze
fights,
doing like a 5-hour
learning
like,
maps
stream
during the open last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
Capitalist joined Score server and we just like watched the tourney together and gave him pointers. Then like they're trying, like they're not just like, oh, this guy parried an attack, blah blah blah. That was so hyped. Like, I remember the week of closed qualifiers, so Hinky was going out of his way to spectate just pick up scrims, and like you'd have people like Weeaboo in his chat or Kawaii like giving him pointers there on like why somebody made that rotation or why this character is being picked. Like, they would help him out. It was really cool to see, like, even the players like just help out the casters. Like, nobody wanted to, I can't think of the word.
exclude them.
Yeah.
Gatekeep them.
Yeah, nobody wanted to gatekeep them. Like, we all wanted to help. We all wanted like the show to do good.
Yeah.
Like, we all want the game to succeed at this point. And like, we all just went out of our way to help them out. Like, they had so much to like cram in that whole week. And for how the show went, I think they did good. And the next one will probably be a lot better. now that they have Clutchmeister on it. So
Yeah, fresh news about 20-30 minutes before we started broadcasting. Clutchmeister confirmed for the official desk. That's a bloody bit pickup right there.
Mm-hmm. Now we have
what
one of our own.
Just for the NA, right?
He's doing EU.
EU.
I'm sure they'll get one for NA too. I feel like.
Oh, you mean next week? Next week, sorry.
On the 9th, yeah.
Oh, because I was like, what? Isn't he playing?
No, it's the last chance one. So Clutch is doing EU, and I'd imagine they'd get like somebody for NA, but it's just like, okay, now we have one of our own. Now there's like more depth to why this is happening.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's gonna do what Sohinki did, or if he's gonna be like on the whole, the main show the entire time, like Sir Action Slacks or Cap.
Yeah,
I'd be curious because Clutch has done hosting stuff in the past. He's also got legacy commentary stuff in the past, like between his Coliseum stuff and then like earlier on his 2v2 and 4v4 stuff. Mistress Mayhem, he commentated for a good long while before I actually ended up going in and doing Mistress Mayhem stuff myself. But he's got the chops to do either hosting desk stuff with the Clutchmeister persona or Matt, or he could do play-by-play or color. Like, he could potentially be going anywhere there. So I'm very curious to see what the desk ends up looking like as a result in the EU. For NA, who would you tap for a slot there? You've got actually a good couple picks. Some of like top 3 comes to mind immediately. It'll be like Score, ironically enough, funnily you Bodrat, or a split between you Raawhit or Weeaboo. Because I've commented with Weeaboo and like there was shenanigans there, but that could work as well. So
I think
maybe that
you can get Kawhi,
Kyle,
you can get
too.
Kyle, Sorsu.
yes, that
Mr.
yeah.
Kyle.
Side note, bloody like because when I was I hung out a little bit in that giant like 8-hour freeze tournament like commentary thing where there was 1 billion people on the desk. Mr. Bloody Kyle coming out of nowhere, showing he's got chops. Like I was worrying for my job slightly. Like, this guy's good. What happened? Like, more homegrown talent coming out of this so quickly. Like, I would actually really like to see for an NA desk either Cerezu, Mr. Kyle coming on as the play-by-play or host, and then grabbing one of the NA players to come in as color. Like, personally for me, because we've got enough NA talent now for broadcast. Like, it's evened out to a nice solid whole, in my opinion. For EU, you've got a good couple choices. But NA, I think you could have a bloody good homegrown talent show.
Yeah, Kyle's very well spoken too, so like it's easy gaming.
Although I do want to address something real quick. There was a sentiment out. It was a sentiment in chat, not necessarily the sentiment expressed by the likes of Freeze when they made their video. It was a sentiment in chat like, ooh, where's the homegrown? Where's Verb? Where's Cerezu? Yada, 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 yada. Like, that, like, Ubisoft, what are you doing? What are these random posers coming in? Like, they did a really good show, and I'm fully like prepared to say that the reason they chose who they chose was purely logistical. It wasn't a case of them snobbing the community. They just needed people around Las Vegas because that's probably where they rented out their office to do the stream from. Because if you remember the stream, there were these couple of weird shots where they showed a big screen with a couple of like solitary spotlights below. I feel like they probably signed a contract to rent out that space for the tournament, and they were going to do a LAN in Las Vegas. But then, surprise, COVID hits, and you can't do it. But you've still put the pen down and put the money down on the arena. So they probably ran production out of there using all the hardware and the internet connection that arena probably has. And then just brought people in remotely there, which is why Vivid wasn't able to, because he was so far away. He's in bloody London, I believe, right now. Not Scotland, but he's Scottish, but he's in London. So a lot of latency there probably didn't work out, even though I would have really liked to have seen Vivid there live. So there was a sentiment like, you know, where's the homegrowns? Like, I don't think that was a malicious thing for a movie. It was purely about, you know, logistical know-how. If we had people in Las Vegas ready to go, I fully imagine they would have been there on stream.
Yeah.
So I think this sentiment of like, how dare they not bring in like the ingrained community stuff. Yes, they're hello there, kitty. While I would have liked to have seen some homegrown talent on that stream, Slacks, so Capitalist and Humanist, along with the production team there, did an incredible job. So Hinky being basically our resident homegrown guy on the desk. The outsiders coming in did an excellent job, and I think anyone saying that that was a bad stream because of it, because there was no homegrown, did not watch the bloody stream, because it was an really bloody good broadcast.
Yeah,
like, one of the best ones we've had
really
for
well
ages.
put together.
It was fun to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
the
I think
promo videos were so good. Oh, this Legion promo
Yeah,
video
on
in
the-
itself
yeah.
sold the entire stream.
I wish they released like only his. I want to see
Yeah.
the full interview of Legion
Yeah.
on his couch.
And they commissioned the chibis as well to represent the players. That was such a nice touch to represent the teams.
I felt
Yeah.
scammed, but yeah, I agree. They were cool.
Yeah, I think the point of it was to make it more entertaining, and then and it was pretty obvious they were going to stay with the same caster, so that gives them the time to in between productions to learn the game from a competitive standpoint, and to broaden their horizons. And that's why I was pretty confident that after that's what they had announced, they would keep them, and that's the direction that they would go, because it makes sense. These guys have the experience, as Verb has said. And while there was some misinformation just because they just didn't know everything, how much are you going to know in the amount of time that they had to start casting to when they found out? Like, they didn't have a lot of time, but they've shown that they're willing to put in the time to learn the game more, to not be to not be as ignorant, and so their casting could be better. Like, yeah, they made mistakes, and some of the things they just said was just flat out wrong, but I find it very difficult to hold that against them. Like, if something like that would happen, again, everybody still makes mistakes. Is their excuse there as much? No, because they've had more time to do the homework. But still, like, I feel like they really shouldn't be criticized nearly as harshly as I've seen them be criticized. Because, like everybody said, I feel like they did a fantastic job on everything else. It's just the game knowledge, and that's fixable. So
yeah. I've made worse mistakes on official Ubisoft broadcast. Like, I very distinctly remember the first one I did, the first broadcast I did, the Jormungandr reveal in Montreal. I forgot during our pre-show playtesting to get the names of all of Jormungandr's feats, and I forgot Hitokiri's. So instead of like the hammer slam, I forgot the actual name of the feat at the time. I ended up ad-libbing it and calling it "Bring Me Thanos" because it reminded me of the Thor thing when he came in during Infinity War, and that's on film. That is there. I probably should have known the name of that feat. Same thing with Hitokiri's tier 4, Senbon Zakuru. I called it like Zenbon Zakura or some nonsense. Like, I'm a homegrown. I've done. Yeah, like, I should have just called it Hito Tier 4. I've done worse things on official Ubisoft broadcast than they did, and I'm homegrown. I should know better. Like, they did bloody good with what they had, and what they had was actually really good. And from an actual game like side of things, the triple screen production that they did, showing you all 3 points at the same time, they may have lent on it a bit too hard in some places, but as an occasional tool, it's a lot better than the normal method you see on streams right now for tournaments, which is just go to free cam and like zoom in a bit and then hit 138 on the keyboard to jump to a player. Having the ability to show the story of all 3 points simultaneously was quite nice. I really enjoyed that little touch. And that probably and I believe they had multiple spectators per game. It wasn't just a one-man band on one computer. Yeah. They had several people. So it
felt like they had several people, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, like, at the very minimum, I know Filthy Spaniard, shout out to the man, was doing clip recordings, like, for their highlight reels, for the replays in between shows. Like, they had not that much downtime when nothing was happening. If it was between games, they'd have clips, and that's actually a self-admitted of my big problem with production I run on tournaments in general right now. There's a lot of downtime in For Honor streams. Like, I just casually, yourself, Bodrat, and yourself, Raawhit, whenever you come into like just casually see a tournament stream if you're trying to find out something going on, do you feel the split is overly towards dead air versus actual game time on, like, at least with community tournaments right now, because there's not a lot filling the gap in between?
I mean, yeah, like there's a lot of downtime. Like it gets pretty boring just waiting there like for a few hours just doing nothing. So yeah, I do agree. Like there's way too much downtime, and like a lot of teams are waiting for like ever. Like especially if you make it to grands and you're just sitting there
for
waiting
2 hours.
more, even more sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's any
If there's
like,
a lot more teams, like
disagreements or anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Matches are stalled, and you're just there, not like doing anything for a few hours.
Yeah, like For Honor tournaments downtime is almost like a mini joke, like in my head these days. Like when the stream first started, I literally tweeted like, time for the Dota 2 contingent to experience the For Honor tradition of downtime between games. It always happens, and it did happen.
Yeah.
They did what they could to stall, but we all know the glorious that is, oh dear, someone messed up the game setting up the game, now you got to reset for the spectator. And that happened multiple times. And then spectator breaks, or like the game crashes in of itself, or like they were rehosting. There was all sorts of stuff going on here and there.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was not as bad as some of the old days where people were like trying to do peer-to-peer setups and trying to like spectate off them, like the whole like we're in better days these days when it comes to For Honor broadcast, and I'm thankful for that. At least we're not in the days of 2 versus 2s where you had to host a 4v4 Elim game and then murder the commentators each round. That added downtime a lot. Just incrementally having to set that up. Now it's just, if you're doing 2Zs, go. Spectate the game.
Yeah. So from a competitive perspective, what I'm curious about then is your guys' how successful you feel like the tournament has been for the competitive community, and then if there's any like, implications that have been brought on for the competitive community because they've restarted Dominion Series, and they've said that they're going to continue to do Dominion Series after this. As far as I'm aware, this isn't going to be the only one. It's going to be an annual thing. So I'm just curious what you guys think that means for Honor as a game.
Gentlemen?
I mean, it shows that they are still willing to support the game with doing Dominion Series, which is a neat thing, because, I mean, Bodrat's probably the same way. Like, this game's just so, like, it just has its own uniqueness to it. And if this game were to die, I don't even know what, I probably wouldn't be gaming as much, to be honest. So the fact that they're willing to run official tourneys is exciting. Like, I get to keep playing my favorite game. Basically.
Yeah, especially if they do like lands and stuff, it'll be a lot more interesting because then you're like,
and then you get to meet all the people you've been playing with.
A lot more fun. So I really hope they do it again next year, and hopefully COVID's a lot better and it's a LAN and everyone gets to meet each other too.
Because their original plan was to do 2 a year, but with COVID they're doing 1. So 2 LANs a year? If there was no COVID, that sounds like a really fun time, and it'll just be, I'm sure it'll be a lot more like interesting for the players and to be playing at like a LAN. I've never been to a LAN.
Yeah, LANs are really fun too. Like
Yeah.
you get to meet everyone. Like, it's just a good time overall. You get to meet all the players, all the dev team, and just hang out in the hotel and eat.
Yeah.
Crap ton of food. Sorry, I paused in between because I'm about to swear.
That's that sounds like a great time. Just chilling in the hotel room with your teammates and with your opponents too, because I feel like for the most part everybody is friends.
Yeah, For Honor,
everyone.
So
everyone's like hella close.
Yeah.
Even like when I went to those couple LANs or just in workshops in general, like everyone was cool each other. Like me, Aller, Clutch, we were like homies. Like we were all hanging out in the same hotel room. Everyone's just together. Like, I mean, I like games like where there's no like hostility between players and opponents. Like everyone's just trying to improve, be better, and just play the
right.
best. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. Like, admittedly, the events I went to weren't competitive LANs. They were the promotional reveal stream, so it was more of an influencer attendance. But there was still some competitive representation there. I remember on the second trip, Scorebrand was there, for example, along with likes of Crack. So, one, I got basically life coaching over dinner by Scorebrand, which was fun. But... like, he's a bloody good motivational speaker when he's had some alcohol in him, by the way. The more lands as well, not only does it give a really nice vibe, but it's great to see the people in the same room on camera. Competitive integrity goes up too, because you don't have to worry about someone accidentally internet connection cutting, or them being underage and having to swap out for a sub if everyone's there on site and verified. Like, if everyone... like, you can't go to poker randomly if you're there on site.
Right.
It's just so much better as well. I mean, yes, people have heard some stories about controllers breaking and having to get, like, substitute ones in the lands from, like, the Hero series back in the day. But overall, it is usually better 9 times out of 10 to have a LAN. It's more prestigious as well, because you just got everyone there.
Yeah, it's like a lot of pressure, too. Everyone's watching, and
Yeah.
you're just chilling on the computers and just going ham.
Yeah, it also makes it feel more legitimate too, right? Because you get flashbacks to these, like the Call of Duty tournaments that would be, you see 2 screens and people on the other side, and it'd be, and the consoles, or for Halo, for example. And like, to me, that would be, I would get that feeling when I was first starting to play the game and look at it competitively and looking at the Hero series and everything like that, and seeing both of these teams on the other side. I felt like, wow, this is a legitimate thing. Like, the game is smaller, but Ubisoft is putting the time into it, and it actually feels like an esport, and that there's something to, you know, work towards.
Like, what I would give for a LAN setup where it was the old COD gear style of the rows lined up, like teams against each other, and a pop-off. You could literally yell at the person on the other side of the screen. What would a Legion pop-off look like at LAN?
I
mean,
I have no idea.
I don't think Legion would pop off at LAN. He's pretty shy in general, like, when it comes to that kind of stuff.
When it's like, when you're in the public eye, I feel like things will be a bit different than how you'll see it online or in For Glory.
He's more of a quiet pop-off guy.
Yeah. I feel like there would be some pop-offs from different characters.
There would be, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't be as intense as they are in For Glory or...
Right.
I mean, the one of the LAN score popped off. When it was me, Ice Guy's Score, and Rave Lord Servant against Clutch Aller, Reptile, and Hanzax. Like, he killed like 3 of them on a point, and he's like, F UDA. Loud as hell, bro. It was amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so to me it seems like the Dominion series has been an overall success. Like, production has been good, casting has been good for what they were given. The games have delivered in terms of, you know, what we've seen. We've seen some upsets, we've seen some really good games. We've seen some entertaining games. And I think the implications, yeah, I pretty much just agree. It's like Ubisoft is, you know, taking time to invest in this property that isn't as successful as like some of their other properties like Rainbow Six, but they're still giving the player base something to work towards in a competitive way. So it seems like that it's been pretty successful. So the last thing I wanted to talk about then was the health of the competitive community, because forever the memes were comp is dead, or, you know, tournaments aren't happening, so you know, the game is dead, or anything like that. And I know that there have been a lot of people who have continued playing competitively and, you know, keep their teams formed, and, you know, the competitive community has gone up and down. So this is an up point for the competitive community, because we're so used to being at a low point where tournaments just never happen. We feel like Ubisoft doesn't care about the competitive community. We don't get any tournaments, we don't get any, you know, kind of backing, but now we're starting to see that. So does this mean that the competitive community is unironically thriving, and it's not just a meme anymore?
I think it is, because at least when I first started playing, even this year, earlier in the year, Into the Fray, It was just 2-team tourneys. When I started playing, it was 2-team tourneys. Like, it was the score team and whatever else the second best team in NA was. Into the fray, it was the score team, and then it was Gang. Now, at least in NA, there's like 4 or 5 decent teams, I'd say.
Yeah.
There hasn't been that many good teams at once. Maybe before, since I started playing comp, but the fact that there's just a lot more teams now than then is just like, it's cool to see. And in EU, I mean, even the underage kids, it's unfortunate that they can't play, but there's a lot more teams if we include all the underage players. Like, it's just...
God, the moment they all become eligible to play, EU's gonna explode in official tournaments. Like,
yeah, EU will
so
be
much
a
talent.
lot bigger.
Yeah, I'm gonna nick the metaphor I last used when I was on a podcast discussing the health of the competitive community. Now, in 2021, the competitive community is no longer on life support. It is doing physical therapy now. It is on the road to recovery. We are not doing somersaults down the hallway to glory, but we are not on life support where we were wondering if we're going to get any support at all, like we were like a year and a bit back during the Dark Ages. So, we've got the setup here, you know, we've got an official tournament being run by Ubisoft, you know, no small credit goes to Mistress, you know, Clarice, and the team working with her on that. I can only imagine the tense call she had having to justify this financial investment on For Honor, who, if you Google For Honor competitive, one of the first things that comes up is Infinite's video about how someone, like, stole $1 million with cheats.
Yeah.
So, like, having the guts to go on that and then execute, we're on the upswing now. We're not soaring, but on the graph, we're going up. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That's my assessment, really. It's just, we're on the upswing. Happy days.
Yeah, I definitely, it definitely does feel like we're starting to get somewhere with this, the support from Ubisoft, because to me that's been the biggest thing. Is there haven't been a lot of teams, at least in my view, not necessarily because there are a lot of people who don't think that they can do well, but it's because they haven't gotten anything official from Ubisoft or any kind of, you know, backing from them. It's all been community-led tournaments, and it takes a while to build a competitive community from a game on just community-led tournaments. You look at Melee, for example, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Nintendo has all but completely abandoned Melee as a competitive esport, but it still is thriving now. But how old is the game, right? And the game has been
literally shutting down tournaments that are trying to be COVID safe because they're using, like, modded emulation style stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's thrived because 90% of those tournaments have been, 99% I would say, have been community-led tournaments, but they've had 15 plus years to build that. Whereas it's not going to happen that way with For Honor. But now that we have backing from the developers, you know, in the forms of Steal rewards, so it started very simple: Steal rewards, and giving different community TOs the ability to give their winners of their tournaments Steal. It's something small, and now has progressed up to, we have a Dominion series now where there's a prize pool and there's a production, there's casters. You know, you're maybe flying out to LAN if COVID wasn't a thing, or maybe you still will, depending on, you know, how vaccines goes, like whatever that looks like. It feels like now that this is a thing, and Ubisoft has stepped in more, like we've been asking for quite literally years. I feel like we're going to see more teams sign up, and it feels like this is more of a long-term support than a short-term support. And that's something I wanted to talk about, is, does this feel like this is long-term? Does this feel like it's just short-term and then we're going to go back to where we were? Or is it really contingent on how many people sign up, how many people watch the stream, you know, how many people continue to play, or you know, something like that? Because if this is just short-term, then I think we're just going to see the decline again. But to me, this feels like it's more of a long-term support from Ubisoft than short-term.
I think it all depends on the gap between the next one. So this one ends on the 23rd. How long will it be till the next Dominion series happens?
Mm-hmm.
If they're planning on doing 2 a year, there's going to be a 3 to 4 month gap, I'd say, between the two. And that's just like a lot of, that could be a whole season of For Honor, and it could be a whole season of nothing, or just those 3 to 4 months will just be back to unofficial tourneys, or people will just take a break and stop playing. Like, I feel like they shouldn't only do Dominion series.
Yeah.
They should do like something like they did with Into the Fray. It was like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a, I don't remember how they worded it, but it was like an introduction to Dominion series, or like the road, the road to Dominion series. Like they should do that again.
Yeah.
I think it all just depends on like just how long it is till the next one for players to want to stick around or play. Like I'm sure by the next one there will be new players for sure. It's just how long.
Yeah, there's an additional wrinkle as well, Raawhit, as well, with the timing of this particular Dominion series. It being open right as the launch of Next Gen happens.
Mm-hmm.
And there is pretty good word of mouth going around on YouTube from various content creators about how Next Gen feels with For Honor. And as someone who has tried it out on the Next Gen console, the Series X, it does feel quite good. The input lag is still there, unfortunately, but it's a solid 60 FPS on Series X, and I believe Series S as well. PS5 is solid 60 as well, as of the latest patch that came out. So that could potentially lure people in to play more, because one of the biggest gripes was PlayStation was the highest percentage user base of the game. That got revealed like ages back due to some events, like clever maths to do with one of the events that happened in game, where it was based on per platform. And I doubt that's probably changed. So, and then it was PC, then Xbox. But that entire audience locked in at 30 FPS may not feel good if they go into competitive against people at 60. It's like, if everyone remembers the example of UDDA before they changed to Nemesis, grabbing a bunch of people and sweeping all 3 platforms in EU when they were doing that ring of tournaments. I think it was actually Into the Fray, maybe, or the one before that.
It was the Steel Tourney.
The Steel Tourneys, thank you, yeah. Where they literally were the Triple Crown champions because they were coming in, even at 30 FPS, literally Amazoning people consoles the day of, from what I understand, in some cases. Or, like, digging consoles out of closets. Because they were used to playing at a higher standard, 60 FPS, the teamwork was better on PC, coming down. I would love to see what happens if that console talent started rising up now with 60 FPS and hopefully crossplay. Hopefully that would be a massive boon to competitive health, because being able just to play around, if hell, take the idea that Brogler submitted all the time, and something that Clutchmeister as well has said on stream. If you want to do a ranked mode, lock it to 60 FPS on all platforms. Make it a hard lock at 60 so everyone's equal. Then go. I think that could be really good for crossplay, because I would love to see crossplay tournaments, because there is so much like locked in console talent that occasionally pops up on PC and like goes nuts. Like there are a couple, quite beloved PC talents now who used to be console guys back in the day. They came in, they put the effort in, and now they are quite well known and they do quite well in tournaments. It is. Crossplay would be the biggest thing for me in terms of enhancing the competitive health of the game. Just expand that player base massively that could play in tournaments.
Yeah, crossplay would help. I think having an introduction to Dominion series, like Robert was saying, or having something like that every season, and then the very last season being Dominion series or something like that from Ubisoft. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like huge payouts. Like make Dominion series the big one, where there's money on the line.
It could just be Steel, just like build up to the Dominion series with like mini or like not as major tournaments, like they did with Into the Fray. The thing with Into the Fray, it all happened I think May and June, and there was nothing. There was no news on Dominion series till September.
Yeah.
So it was like a 4 to 5 month break of doing nothing on For Honor.
Yeah.
Like there were the monthlies, but that was about it.
Yeah, for community led. But I'm just saying from Ubisoft perspective, just having a tournament every season, whether it plays into how you can place in the Dominion series or not, I don't think that matters too much. I think just putting something out there every season, like maybe into the season you have a tournament or something for decent steel, and then the very last season of the year or however you want to do it is the Dominion series. Or if you want to do, depending on how many seasons they want to do, not Dominion series for the first season that plays into the Dominion series for the first half. Then to stack them in between if you're wanting to do 2 Dominion series a year, and just having the Dominion series be what everybody is working towards, and there's an official tournament to help these other teams practice, and then they can also go to these community-led tournaments like SCG does and other TOs.
They could even do what they've done before, just let an org like SCG run a minor tourney into the fray if Ubisoft doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah,
get orgs out there too.
There's history of that. The Spectator tournament, it went a little bit funny, but that was run by an outside org. For Arena, I believe was.
It was run by Raven and Boogie. Just delegate to the TOs in the community.
Yeah,
that could be another option. It's just I guess you can compare it to having a content drought. If there's nothing happening competitively or competitive wise, I don't think anyone's just gonna keep playing the game. I think.
Right. Well, there's no incentive to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there is the hardcore few in FG that will plus up to scrim because basically it's a lifetime habit at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to bring in more talent with a complete no man's land of tournament listings.
Yeah.
You've got to have there's got to be a pulse to really get people going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just pumping out multiple tournaments a month will be helpful for that. That's why I kind of pushed SCG to try and see how well a 1v1 tournament would go. 1v1 tournaments haven't really happened all that much because, 1v1's not really all that competitive. Not a lot of people really take them all that seriously. But from a logistics standpoint for a tournament, it's very easy to sign up. You don't have to worry about getting a team together. You don't have to worry about practicing ganks or anything with anybody else. It's something that's very easy to do, and it gives an outlet to the people who play the game that are just duelists. And I think we had 30 or 40 something people sign up for the duel tournament for SCG. So I think having that variety and just having more tournaments for players to get involved with will help boost the community in this physical therapy section that we're in. I feel like even before crossplay, there are still a lot that we can do, that Ubisoft can do in tandem with the community to really boost the game and boost the competitive community.
But Raawhit, what were you gonna say?
I don't remember.
We were talking about duels, if that helps. Duel tournaments.
No, I don't even remember what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Damn it, Cerezo and having salient points.
I'm sure it'll come back to me. You can just go on.
Okay.
I'll chime in.
Yeah, suffice to say, game is on the upswing health-wise, but let's not go having a bunch of investors coming over. We have Nemesis who have come in, which is a nice sign. A team has been signed, which is not something. The last time a team was signed For Honor was when NRG made moves, but that was more of an influencer type deal where certain people were getting picked up.
Yeah.
Even to this day, King Richard, Ice Guys, Cypher PK, the people who got picked up by NRG are still rocking NRG tags because it wasn't necessarily a For Honor deal, it was just an influencer type deal to them. But being able to say NRG were in For Honor was a nice thing to say. We saw it on the Hero series. The Ice Guys, in the infamous Pebble incident with Oscar, was rocking NRG tags, which, NRG was in For Honor competitive technically. So having another team like Nemesis come in is quite nice. Are we going to see more teams like that? Maybe if the game's on an upswing. I'm not going to start chanting we're going to see a G2 versus Navi final in an SCG tournament. but that would, the road work is the foundation is being laid.
Yeah.
We have Nemesis in.
I think it's also important to note too that this isn't necessarily the first time we've seen these, a team being signed, like Verb is saying. So I'm it's nice to see, but for me personally, it doesn't give me a lot of hope because we've seen it before. I think if we see other brands come in and try and get involved, either in a content creator standpoint or for a team, like signing a team, that would be cool. But I'm not actually 100% sure if everybody on Nemesis is signed to Nemesis. I think I could be incorrect, and somebody can correct me, or if I'm wrong, and I'm just putting the caveat. I think it's just Clutch that is technically signed to Nemesis, and everybody else is just on Nemesis as the team. That's the team name now.
Yeah, from what I was told, or from what I've heard from Otto, originally it was just Clutch to get signed as a streamer, but I think Clutch talked his way into, let's just pick up my entire For Honor team as well. I don't know if they're all contracted or anything. I doubt it. But I think that's how it went. Instead of just Clutch being signed as a streamer, he talked his way through it and got his team. So even with being signed as a team, I don't think it's it's only one team that got signed. I think if other orgs or sponsors were to jump in, I think then it would be a little bit of a bigger deal, but I don't know. I don't think it does anything for the game as of right now.
It would be nice for other organizations to take notice.
Yeah.
Quite a salient point for me. Brawlhalla, another sort of niche-ish fighting game in the vein of Smash. They had one or two little homegrown brands sort of start coming up. Burrito being one of the big ones. Rest in peace, Burrito. But they literally had a guy win the World Championships, and they have a skin in the game because of it. It's a brand that's not around necessarily anymore, but they had some homegrowns. I'd be curious to see what happens if someone tried to do their own homegrown organization in For Honor. Try and start a brand, from bottom up, instead of bringing a team in.
Mm-hmm.
I am under no illusion that we're not going to be seeing, Fnatic, Cloud9, G2
TSM,
brackets. Yeah, TSM. But a couple homegrown orgs start, fighting it out. That could be kind of interesting. That'd be something I'd like to see. Because, at least from a logistical standpoint, for me on broadcast, it would be a lot easier to remember, X team name under X brand versus whatever the hell name a team's decided to come up with this week.
Right.
At least we're not in the days of where the names literally were trying to
Excuse
trip
me?
up the commentators.
Are you dogging Chimmies?
No way, man. I'm just saying your names have changed. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a new team, so of course it's got to be a new name.
Is Chimmies the name? Is that the full on name? Is that it?
Yeah, that's the team name. Yeah.
All right, there we go. Chimmies.
Fair play.
We couldn't be KD Hunters or whatever the fuck his old team name was.
True.
Hey, at least we're not in the days of 2v2 tournaments where Clutchmeister and Setmix called their team People Stallion, and then Frozen Flame and I forget the partner of Frozen Flame, literally called their team, I think it might be Legion, called their team Setmix and Clutchmeister. So we were having to commentate opposite names, and it was the worst. And people kept getting confused, thinking Pete Stallion had returned to the game multiple times. But no, the team had just called themselves that.
That sounds like a Setmix thing for sure.
It was the worst thing. I had to deal with it on Mistress Mayhem's and For Honor Arenas and some SCGs for several months. It was the worst thing. I'm glad that's dead. That meme needs to stay buried in the bloody ground.
Well, now that you've said it, you've probably just given somebody an idea.
Probably. I've probably just dug my own grave on that one, but it's a new year. Spring cleaning. I'd like to see the new memes.
Yeah.
I think I remember making one of my team names Sex. Is what Spaniard is referring to. Yeah.
Yes. I remember that.
Yeah.
There have been some very interesting team names over the years.
Ugh. For
Um,
honor, bless his heart. The community can sometimes do absolute bads.
true.
Absolute.
It's all
bloody
fun
bads.
and games. That's all it is. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it in terms of topics. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just
Really
gonna say
good everything.
I don't have anything else. Bodrat had to step out. I think he's actually just going to be AFK for the rest of the time, so that is why we're not asking him anything and why he's not saying anything. I was fully expecting him to leave, but he just stayed in
It's
Discord.
He's
Bodrat.
just vibing.
Yeah. Maybe
He
he
just
actually
probably
didn't
forgot.
leave and he's just listening. Who knows? I don't know what Bodrat does. But yeah, if there's anything else you guys wanted to touch on these three topics, I think we're done. We covered it pretty extensively. Gryphon will probably see play. Not 100% sure who he will replace. Probably somebody with a bash, but it's still kind of up in the air. Dominion series has been a success for the most part overall, and the competitive community is looking much better than it was, but still has a little bit to go. So
I do remember what I wanted to talk about earlier. It was the turnout
Hey.
for the NA tourney. There were surprisingly a lot of teams that showed, even if they're like randoms or just names you never heard of. But NA usually doesn't get a lot of showing team wise. We usually get like 10 or less.
yeah.
And I think we got like 20 to 30 teams, at least first open pool. And I'm sure that number will like increase. EU's always been insane with showing. I just don't know if that number will change for like next Dominion series, whether or not it'll decrease. I feel like it would.
Yeah,
But
same.
maybe new players, or not new players, maybe players that are that hit 18 or have hit 18 after this Dominion series is done will be able to play now. It's just
Well, I also think the allure of being on stream and the possibility of winning money and everything like that is going to be great motivation for newer
for
players.
sure, yeah.
So
Pizza money, always welcome.
right,
The classic pizza money.
lots of pizza money depending on how well you do. Tons of it. Yeah, I fully expect the teams to go up in numbers. I'm not sure we'll see much of a difference in who wins, but I think we're going to see a lot more teams, throw their hat in the ring, and then
I wonder if teams will like drastically change too after Dominion series. That'll be interesting to watch. Like
it's musical chairs, dude, for NA teams. Just from if you just
There's, like,
happen to
there's
look
the-
at for
there's
glory,
the-
you'll see it.
yeah, there's the two locked in teams. There's Chimmy's and then there's Thrill News team, Ooh Gang, and then everybody else is just running amok.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like amazing to see.
I hope it continues.
That's all I had to.
I want to see more content creators be part of it too. Like I want to see Norgaz has a team. He's participated in the Dominion series. But I would be nice to see, him go from being mostly a casual player and up to a competitive player and competing in the Dominion series consistently.
Hey,
Dorcas
that's
does
what I
commentary though
did.
too.
Yeah,
it's
he
like-
does.
When his team gets knocked out, he does commentary on the side. Like he was one of the primary NA streams for some of the tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's a good bit of talent that could still come up.
Yeah, I think we're at a great point in the game where a lot could go right for the game, and we have a better chance of that now that we see this support from Ubisoft, and I hope it just continues. If they're wanting to do 2 a year like this, that'd be great, and make it a continual thing. I think if they show that they'll do this year after year, I think we'll start to see the game grow, and at
Hope
least
it,
something
like,
competitive.
Eventually turns into just like a league
Yeah,
instead of like a online tournament play. Just have it be like the Call of Duty League or Overwatch League or something like that. I think that'd be a lot more neat and
Yeah,
fun to
Open
play in.
league where you qualify into it by playing ranked would be something I'd love to see. Where if you could be invited in, or you could play your way in by playing ranked.
Yeah,
To
you could
actually
like
make ranked
you,
mode have a reason.
that too, or they would host a tourney to like, oh, you guaranteed yourself a spot into the league or something like that. I don't know. I would just like to play in a league.
yeah.
Like I've always wanted. I don't know. Like growing up watching COD and Halo comps, Man, I want to do that. I want to play in a league, or I want to play at a LAN. So
Old game battles, MLG days sort of thing.
oh my god, yeah. I loved game battles on COD. I'm just hoping For Honor gets there at least with like the LAN. I just want to go to a LAN.
Yeah.
It's just one thing on my bucket list I want to scratch off.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I don't have anything else. So is there anything you guys wanted to shout out or say before we end stream today?
Go first, Verb.
In terms of shoutouts, universal branding is a wonderful thing. Like Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, just Verbalosity. I'm pretty easy to find if I rarely sum up the courage to stream. Or the discipline, really. But apart from that, yeah, life is good.
Oh,
Happy New Year.
Shout out to Nuke.
Yeah,
I
what's
love
up,
you.
you?
Yes!
And Willow.
Twitch chat's working for me now. Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
people.
yeah, it is. It is.
Yes, Nuke is in the chat. Hello. Yes, thank you for the shout. Shout out to Jeebus. Why not? Shout out to Jeebus.
I don't like Jeebus. Forget Jeebus. But shout out to Nuke.
Oh.
Jeebus always tries to kiss in my streams, and it's
true.
It's a bad thing to do.
Yeah, it's.
Shout out to Spaniard.
Little weird. Little weird.
I'm just gonna name every person in the Twitch directory now. Just shout out to them. Because they have this extended 3 hours.
Yeah, perfect. Is there anybody else you wanted to shout out, Robert?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I don't really have too much for shout outs either. Obviously, my stream, you're here. Please follow if you haven't already to keep up with how little I do actually stream, but I am wanting to try and do a bit more podcasts, especially with the Dominion series. I think I'm going to do my best to try and get the casters from the Dominion series on a podcast if I can. Once it's done,
That'd be fun to watch.
To see what their impressions were and everything like that. But I am a man of little reach, but I will use what I can to try and get that. But you can keep up with the podcast. You following the channel, my Twitter as well. You can follow. It's at Sarasu5. I have a Discord as well. If you want an invitation to that, just let me know. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate you watching through the entire thing. We are about 2.5 hours in. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We definitely appreciate all of that support there. And yeah, we will, for those of you on YouTube, we will see you in the next video soon. TM.